I've just finished grinding about $50 million worth of credit on Gran Turismo 7 using the famous macro. I've seen posts online where people say that it's not working. For me, it wasn't working at the start as well, but I found out how to fix it. So this video, I'll show you how to use the macro, what you need for it, and how you can just become rich while you sleep. The macro needs to be run from your personal computer. So you either need a laptop, a PC, a desktop, or whatever you have in order to run this. You would need the macro itself. You would need a PlayStation 4 or 5 remote play. Before we look at the PlayStation 5, let's go to my desktop and have a look how it needs to be set up. There are two sites that you want to go to. The first one is the PlayStation Remote Play site, and I'll put the link in the description. I've just deinstalled everything from my computer, so this should just work exactly like the way you would see it. I have a Windows PC, so that's what I'll run. And in the bottom, I have to agree to the license agreement and click install. Yes. Okay. Next, you can change the location if you want and install. Finish. Okay, that's one part done. The second part is we need to go to this link. So when you go to the Dropbox site, you will get confronted with this sign up. You don't have to sign up. It's not very clear, but you're already actually in the section that has the file. And you can just go to this little box here and say download. That will download the macro. So you don't need a Dropbox account. You don't need to sign in anything. It's just publicly available. So it's a single file that is downloaded. And I put that thing, I copied it onto my desktop. So now we have two bits here. We have the PS4 remote play and the actual macro. So here we have the PlayStation remote play. We'll start that one up. We need to link to an account. So you need to log in with your own account. If only I could type. There we go. Put your password in. This is just how you log into your PS4 or your PlayStation in general. And sign in. A verification code will be sent to your phone. So for me, 422262. Just to make sure that you are truly the person who is logging into the account. Fair enough. And we say confirm and continue. And I'm going to log into my PS5. And now we need to go to our PlayStation. So the only thing we need to do is we need to go to the home screen. Go to the top in settings. Then we go to system. And then we go to remote play on the left. Here you just have to make sure that your remote play is enabled, so that little ball needs to be solid white and to the right. So when you log in, when you go here, you probably find it in this state. Just toggle it and turn it on basically. And that's all. You need to buy a car. You need to buy the Tomahawk SVGT. This is a road car. Just buy it at Brand Central. Once you have bought that car, which cost $1 million or 1 million credits, you go to your Pan American Championships. This means you can only do this method if you have unlocked this race already. And we're going to change to the Tomahawk and have a look at car settings. So you can basically use a stock standard Tomahawk. You don't need to change anything in on the actual car. The original video that I watched says that you need to have sports hards, but it doesn't matter. Medium or hards, both will work. Makes no difference. Okay, let's have a look at some other settings. We go enter the race. And now we need to look at some controller settings. This is important because the macro is programmed to run on a specific controller setting. And it will not work if your controller setting is not exactly this. And I'll show you. Let's go to controller. You go to the button configuration and you're going to choose here that you want to have the directional buttons. So the macro is coded to send signals to these steering buttons that you can see here. So if you use any of the other mechanisms, it will not work. Use the directional buttons, and by default you will find roughly this setup. Just make sure that acceleration is in the button is in the X button. Your steering is already set, and you have to make sure that the down button says nitrous overtake. So basically the macro steers three or four things. It controls the steering with left and right. It controls the nitrous or the overtake button with the down button, and it will control acceleration with X. That's that. Then you want to make sure your steering sensitivity is at -2. This makes sure that the steering that the macro does is very minute, and it doesn't bounce you off the wall continuously. It sort of holds you against the wall. And if you would put this up high, you'll see the time that it takes to do the race is longer, and that will lead to issues of it being stuck in the menu. And we'll talk about it a bit more later on. Then you really want to turn your force feedback down to 0 or as 1, because if you don't do that, your controller will be shaking the whole time. Okay, that's the controller settings. Now let's have a look at the assist settings. This is important as well. We're only accelerating, so that means make sure that the thing is set on automatic, so the gears are changed automatically. Traction control on 5, just in case you crash, that it doesn't spin out continuously. So you just want to make sure that if in the case it spins, it is able to accelerate again and pick up the normal speed. This all doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is you want to replace the car after leaving the track. And I have this on, but it probably actually doesn't really matter. All the other indicators makes no difference. And that's about it. So then we go to start, and then we press the options button on your controller, and we hover over retry. So now we go back to the PC. So when you press OK here, a connection will be established. This might take a few seconds, especially when you do this for the first time. So be patient. It might take a little bit before you can see your session. Don't worry about that. It will come. And here you go. Now you see that we have our remote play, and it's actually working. You would have seen on your TV screen that the remote play is connected. And now the only thing is we open this program. It gives this little box, and the only thing we do is start. So this is a macro, and a macro is nothing more than a few simple steps. Actually, let's see if we can make this a bit bigger. Let's go back to the other view actually. One thing to note is how many cars we bump off the track. See that car completely spinning in the background? So we bumped off a car, and you'll see that still we are very likely to get a clean race bonus. So a macro is nothing more than just a bunch of commands. This command will say, like, I haven't looked in detail into the macro, but I roughly know how macros work. and I can understand how this one is coded. Although I don't 100% know for sure, this macro will basically say accelerate for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. While you're accelerating, hold down the down button, which is the overtake button, and continuously press right, 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 right. That keeps you against the wall. The acceleration just makes sure that we go through, and the overtake button makes sure that we finish this race in time and as quick as possible, because of course we want to do as many races within the hour as we can. So you see that after hours and hours of grinding, your cars will lose a bit of performance. Every race will be basically 3 minutes and 52 seconds to start off with, and then as soon as your oil gets bad, it takes a little bit longer. Makes no difference. Don't use you don't need to refresh your oil or whatever, because the only thing that this thing does, it accelerates for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So as long as you are finished before the 4-minute sign, you'll be fine. It probably does mean that you can use different cars, but I haven't tried any of the other cars. This is just the car that I bought off the free 1 million credits that I got, and I thought I'd use this. So if you don't have this car, you could try it with a different car, but you have to make sure that you end within the 4 minutes, or maybe 4 minutes 10, but you don't want to push it any further, because after the 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the macro will just try to go through the menu. So we'll see that in a second here. Let's just wait until let's just cut back to the last lap. Oh, there might be some accidents here. Oh, just left just enough space. So this Pan American Championship has multiple races, but you'll see what the macro does. It just only does this race. So it goes to the next race, then cancels the championship and goes into the championship again to do this particular race. The only thing it does is this race. At the moment in version with the update that we have running now, which is 1.09, you get 52,500 credits if you have the clean race bonus. Without it, you have 35,000 credits. And I'll put up a graph to show how often you would have clean race bonuses, because I kept track of that for like 30 or 40 races. Okay, one more lap to go. You see we have overtaken all cars. We've lapped all of them, and we are about to almost lap the back markers for the second time. And now we're going to see what the macro does, because this is the boring part where you can use your elastic band, but now you'll see that an elastic band doesn't work anymore. So we've won first in 3 minutes 53, as long as it's under 4, whatever, it's fine. Now it's counting down until the 4-minute 20. So you'll see it goes down, and that's when so it's just waiting. So if you finish your race now, it's still fine. Now it's going down. It presses X. It presses X again. It presses X again. X again to get through the menu. See, clear race bonus. While we have destroyed a few people's races, we claim 52,000. Now we're going into the replay. Exit here. Do not press replay. We go to the right. Press next race. We'll wait a few seconds. Start this race. I'll get just enter. Next. Like, I don't do anything, as you can see from my hands. This is my PC controlling it, and we exit the championship. Now that once we exit the championship, we go down to get to the races, and 6 to the right, and then you get to Pan American Championship. We enter, then we wait a little bit. So the waiting is actively coded in the macro, and that's a very important point. And now we start again. So the wait times are very actively recorded in the macro, because if you would code it without any wait times, it would just flick through the menus way too quickly. So the wait times allow your PS5 to catch up to before the next X button or whatever is pressed. So you'll see that one of the issues is why things are not working is if you run this PS5 script on a PS4, it's probably not going to work because the loading times of each of the menus will be slower in PS4, and that means that your computer is already going through the menus while the menus haven't arrived on the screen yet. Another common issue is that you might get stuck in a menu. So I've run this macro for hours and hours now, actually for days and days. I've grinded around 50 million credits, and it crashed 5 times on me. The last time like I run it continuously, it ran continuously for 16 hours. So it can run very, very long, but it can also crash. So this is no guarantee that you can, leave the house now, come back next week, and you have a gazillion credits. You have to keep an eye on it a little bit. And once I set it out to run during the night, and it crashed basically the minute I walked away from my PC. So those things are frustrating. They happen, but just deal with it and start again. It's possible that it gets stuck. For example, here it got stuck in the second race of the Pan American Championship, which the macro doesn't work for. So what you then do is you just go to your PC. You turn off the macro first. Then I often just turn off the remote play as well. And then you have to actually turn on your PS4 controller by pressing the PS4 or PS5 button. And then you can start moving these buttons again. You can go exit and just prepare again for the macro to start. So you go out of here, yes, exit. And you just have to make sure that you go back to the start where you can start the macro again. So we go to Pan American Championship, enter. X to get to the next menu, X, start, options, and 1 to the right. So it is on retry. Then we go back to the screen. We'll start both of these up again. Establish the remote play connection. And once that is established, we can again just press start, and the whole thing starts again. So your controller is on, so you just need to make sure that it is connected to a USB cable, plugged in, otherwise you'll lose battery and it will die. All free. In principle it is, yes, but of course your PS4 or PS5 and your PC are running all the time. So for me, I have solar panels, so I run it during the day when the sun is shining and the electricity is free. If you run it at night, you'll be paying for it out of your pocket. So a PC and a PS5 at this level, I looked up, uses about 400 watts in total, and 400 watts for a whole night, let's say 10 hours. Depending on your cost price, you can calculate how much that might cost you in actual dollars. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge the owner who made the macro. That was not me. I understand macros in general and in principle, but I have not made this particular one. I'm very grateful for this person to make the macro and share it with others so everybody can reap the benefits of this macro. When I first started the macro, it wasn't working for me, and I quickly figured out what the issue was. And some of you who have posted online that it didn't work might have this particular issue. You just have to make sure that when you go to World Circuits, you can test it before you even start the macro, and press down. It goes to the bottom left competition, the bottom left, the high-speed ring track day. Because the macro it seems very smart, but it's not smart at all. The macro would just say down, right, 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 X. So if you would go down and you don't start at the front, 6 to the right is the wrong championship, and then the macro doesn't run anymore. So you just have to make sure that that is the case. For me, it just meant that I had to finish book 39, which happened to be the longest of all, but luckily it was not too much of a problem. And after that, I could run the macro for days and days and days. If this video was useful to you, make sure to press that like button. If this is the first time to my channel, welcome. Have a look else at the other things that I do. Make sure to subscribe for future videos. And make sure to put your name in the comments if you want to be considered in the raffle for the $5 million credits. So that's it. I hope you can set this up now on your system and grind all those credits together so you can finally buy those cars that you wanted to buy for a while.